What's up, everybody? Matt Gajewski here, back again talking college football, and today we are breaking down Oklahoma State ahead of the 2025 season. If you like this content, please subscribe, leave a comment. Those help a small channel like this a ton. Even just a like can get us in front of new viewers. We're recording this early in June, so if I miss anything on Oklahoma State, please let me know in the comments. But let's take a look back before we take a step forward. Here are the efficiency metrics for Oklahoma State last year. Now, this team finished 3-9. Should come as no surprise. A lot of the metrics are outside the top 100, especially on defense. Pure shootout team. They dealt with injuries, kind of a mess from the start. Offense was really the problem for this team compared to expectation. We thought this was going to be an amazing offense. They have a 7th-year quarterback in Alan Bowman, an NFL running back in Ollie Gordon, an entire offensive line that had started, and multiple receivers with a lot of production. And it just didn't come together. Bowman never took the step forward. They were 99th in passing. The offensive line was sort of imbalanced. Second in pass blocking, 68th in run blocking, which affected Ollie Gordon, of course, who was 92nd overall in total rushing efficiency. Really, you just had a decent pass blocking unit and some receiving efficiency, but definitely not living up to expectation. And kind of the first time in a while we'd seen this from Mike Gundy. He's now in his 21st year, the winningest coach all time in program history. But last year was important for him. It was the first time they missed a bowl since his inaugural season with that 3-9 record. And it's been a tumultuous offseason for Gundy. There's no way around it. There was a lot of speculation he wouldn't be back. He ends up sort of reworking his contract, and he took a reduced salary in an attempt to increase athlete revenue sharing. The new agreement also requires Gundy to be more active in fundraising and donor initiatives. So it's a completely new look for Oklahoma as they enter this NIL space, a program that clearly hadn't had all of their ducks in a row, which culminated in last year's disappointing season. But if you dive into it, weird body of work overall. They beat South Dakota State, Arkansas in a crazy shootout. I should know I had money on Arkansas, one of the few games Oklahoma State won, and then they beat Tulsa. They could have been better. They had single-digit losses to Utah. That was a 3-point game. BYU, a 3-point game. Baylor was a 10-point game, so right there. And then Texas Tech, they lose by 8 points. But the real problem is they got blown out by double digits against Kansas State, West Virginia, Arizona State, TCU, and Colorado. Just not what we expected. And with Gundy now reworking everything, you see a pair of new coordinators come in. They fired Casey Dunn at offensive coordinator. They hired Doug Meacham. He's an interesting prospect. He's an air raid guy. He's previously coordinated offenses for Houston, TCU, and Kansas. Most recently, he's worked as the wide receivers coach for TCU. When he's been an offensive coordinator, he's been demoted a few times, which is kind of a concern for me. This is his alma mater, though, and he's coached here before. So, I mean, the air raid principles, it's kind of a staple of what Gundy looks for to hire. He's kind of going back to an old guard sort of offensive coordinator now, which is not like him. For whatever it's worth, Gundy likes to do these unconventional things, and it sort of bit him finally. Defense, they fired Brian Nardo. They hired Todd Grantham. Kind of the same thing. Most recently, Grantham coached the Saints defensive line, but he's been a defensive coordinator in college before. He previously coordinated Florida's defense from 2018 to 2021. It was a roller coaster. When he got there, he had an awesome start. Poked around the NFL a little bit, but Dan Mullen, the coach of Florida at the time, decided to give him one of the biggest contract extensions, making him one of the highest paid assistant coaches in college football. That lasted a very short time before he was fired in 2021. So you hire two coordinators that have success, but have failed a lot in their tenures. I'm not really sure what to look at this and think. At least we can say Gundy's like not hiring high school coaches like he's done in the past, or D2 coaches. So we'll see what this means for them on the field. Talent acquisition for Oklahoma State, it's just not anywhere near what it needs to be to actually compete in this conference or in the landscape of college football. This has been a developmental program, which is great when you can actually hold guys on your roster. As you can see, they're already bleeding some roster positions away, like 50% of your 2023 recruiting class. These guys are your juniors. They're supposed to be the ones playing. 50% of that class is gone. They've basically already lost 25% of last year's class. And it's not like these classes are very good to begin with. They finished between 54 and 55 each of the last 54 and 56 each of the last 3 seasons. And as far as their transfer acquisitions, it's all over the place. This year, they're 32nd overall. Last year, they were 68th, 22nd in 2023. A lot of D2 guys, a lot of JUCO guys, a lot of low-level competition guys. They're working with an ankle weight, so it's going to require development and coaching in order to coax these guys into success. Let's take a look at the roster. A lot of change. We mentioned everything they brought back last year, so this is a new roster. Here is our data usage tool. We're taking a look at all the players that might see playing time. Transfers are in yellow. Then we have the year in school they are column to the right, how many snaps they've played the last 2 years, what recruiting star they earned coming out of high school, and then a value score. Think 50 as your average player in college football. So we have a transfer at quarterback. House Haney, who is a TCU transfer. He's competing with Zane Flores for the starting job, allegedly. First and foremost, you lose Bowman. He finally enters the workforce. Basically, we had seen Bowman play to a certain level of quarterback, and he could never get above that. So can we get something more from one of these guys? I think the answer is possibly. Flores, redshirt freshman, top 500 recruit, 30th QB in his class. Some services had him as a 4-star. He's a consensus 3-star. He's a big pocket passer, 6'4", 205, functional mobility, someone that maybe could fit the air raid system that we're going to see Meacham run, but completely unproven. Haney is a 4-star quarterback. He was the 19th QB in the 2024 class. Not as big. He's 6 feet, 190. Only appeared for a few games with TCU where basically he was just using his legs. Carried 15 times for 65 yards, 4.3 yards per carry. He's smaller, but he's a true dual threat. So you have two guys with completely differing skill sets, but both of them of a decent recruiting pedigree. They're just not proven whatsoever. So complete black box at quarterback. Not sure what we're going to get in this sort of air raid style scheme. Running back, they lose Ollie Gordon. So now you go to a log jam of 5 potential backs. The incumbents and the players that have gotten the most hype this spring, Rodney Fields Jr. and transfer Caleb Hicks from Oklahoma. Fields is 5'9", 185. He's a 3-star redshirt freshman, only carried 21 times last year, but 4.7 yards per carry. Pretty good efficiency. Hicks, the Oklahoma transfer, is 5'11", 213. He only has 5 carries through 2 years. So another position completely unproven. Behind them, Sesi Vialhi is back, as well as Trent Howland. Vialhi is 5'9", 200 pounds. He's a redshirt sophomore, only 2.4 yards per carry. Hasn't really stood out in the spring. Howland has a different skill set. The Indiana transfer, he's 6'3", 240. Averaged 5.6 yards per carry last year, and he had 352 yards back with Indiana in 2023. Maybe the most likely to ascend is Freddie Brock. He's at least the most proven. He's a Georgia State transfer. We didn't see him in the spring. He came in via that spring portal window, which maybe is an indictment on the players in the building if you're adding guys late in the cycle like that. Originally a main transfer, Brock is 5'10", 190 pounds. He carried for 819 yards last year. That was 5.4 yards per carry. He had 21 catches. Very good after contact as well, but it did come in the Sun Belt. So now you need to jump in competition to the Big 12. The running back room is just, there's no way to put it. I think when you have a guy drafted like Ollie Gordon, there's just not really a guy on the roster that profiles to have that kind of talent. It would be a surprise and a big step forward via development. I think this run game is probably taking a step back. Wide receiver, they lose their top 4. Dazon Stribling, Brennan Presley, Rashad Owens, and then Talon Shetron tore his ACL this spring. He was supposed to be their number 1, at least probably the most likely, given he was a 4-star, which now leaves your top 2 incumbents as Gavin Freeman and Dwayne Lofton, 2 former transfers. Freeman is 5'8", 185. He elected to preserve his red shirt by sitting out most of the season. He only played in 4 games. 27 catches for 182 yards through a 3-year career. He has a 79% slot rate and a very average 1.33 yards per out. In fact, that is below average. Lofton originally came via transfer from Virginia Tech, 5'11", 190 pounds. Only played in 4 games as well, 6 catches. Through his career, he has 41 catches for 550 yards, and that's a 4-year career. 98% of his snaps were in the slot last year, but he's played inside and out. Last year, 2.55 yards per out, but through his career, he's at 1.06, so that leaves a lot to be desired. From there, Oklahoma State added transfers Christian Fitzpatrick from Marshall, Jalen Lloyd from Nebraska, Sam Jackson the fifth from Auburn, Shamar Rigby from Purdue, Terrell Davis from Central Oklahoma, and Cameron Abshire from Emory and Hart. There's a lot to siphon through. Fitzpatrick, he's been all over the country. 1 year at Louisville, 3 years at Michigan State, 1 year at Marshall. Really took him till that Marshall season to play significantly. He's 6'4", 217, caught 35 passes for 587 yards. Boundary receiver, 1.72 yards per route, but it isn't concerned. It took him so long to break out. Jalen Lloyd, he's the Nebraska transfer, 5'10", 180 pounds, 13 catches for 255 yards. Played in the slot 50% of the time. His yards per route was 2.28 on a limited sample. I think there's a pretty good chance we see him start. From there, you have Sam Jackson, originally a QB recruit, played with TCU and Cal, went to Auburn last year. In his first year as a wide receiver, he had 2 catches. He's a former 4-star, and allegedly he's been excelling. He returned a touchdown. It was a kicker or punt, I forget, in the spring game. So, I mean, we'll see. Shamar Rigby, 6'3", 187, caught 11 passes for 113 yards as a freshman in just a completely dysfunctional Purdue offense. Perimeter receiver, not sure what we get out of him in what should be a better offense. Terrell Davis, he's 6 feet, 180 pounds. In the FCS, he caught 109 passes for 1,609 yards. He was a D2 All-American. He tried to play basketball originally coming out of high school, so the weird path is why he was down at those ranks. And then Abshire, he was a 1,000-yard receiver at D2 as well. He's 6'4". The D2 guys are very volatile. Generally, you see D2 guys not make the jump up, especially to the Big 12. It's not like they're playing in the G5. They kind of make this a volatile unit with some upside. I would be shocked if they lived up to expectations compared to what we saw last year. But I don't think this unit is awful, and it does have some hidden potential to be better basically the D2 guys can make the jump to the Power 4 level, which would be a surprise for me. Tight end, they lose Tyler Foster and Jake Schultz, but Josh Ford is returning. They used a lot of tight ends last year. Ford is 6'6", 245. He had 10 catches for 92 yards. Basically playing in line, average blocker. He was a freshman, though, so there's maybe some potential he grows. They had 4 transfers. Carson Susu from BYU, Will Money from Utah State, Oscar Hammond from North Texas, and Grayson Brousseau from Utah State. The most experienced transfer is Hammond, the North Texas transfer. He's 6'3", 236. The reason he's not grading out a little bit better is his blocking was so bad. But he's going to be a wide receiver first and foremost. He caught 19 balls, 238 yards. Played in line probably a little too much for his size, but he originally transferred to North Texas from Central Oklahoma, so he's another low-level guy, now making another jump up. There's just not a lot of upside with a guy like this, but he is probably your best player at the position. Money is 6'4", 230 pounds. He's a BYU transfer. Caught 11 balls for 138 yards. 66% of his routes came out of the slot. He was a terrible blocker and a below-average pass catcher. And then no one else really has experience. Susu from BYU, 6'5", 240, second season. He's played very little. He actually started his career playing defense. Brousseau enters his second season. He played 12 snaps as a freshman with Utah State. He's 6'5", 220. And then I guess Quentin Stewart is back. He has 191 snaps over the last 3 years with Oklahoma State, but there's very little proven production. And what is proven via, like Hammond comes at a lower level of competition with North Texas. Offensive line. They lost their top 6 guys. This is going to be a patchwork unit. There's a number of players that might play tackles, but this is largely going to be a position decided in the summer because not even everyone who's a candidate was there this spring. At tackle, 3 of the candidates are Tyler Brumfield, Nuku Mafi, Jamison Mejia. Tyler Brumfield is a 6'6" JUCO product. He's 2 years eligibility left. We haven't seen him play really at all. Mejia is a 2023 recruit without a snap to his name. Mafi is a redshirt freshman. He was a borderline top 1,000 recruit, which is one of the higher ones for Oklahoma State at this point. But if one of those guys or 2 of them can't carve out both tackle jobs, I guess they ended Markel Samuel from Appalachian State. 2 years of below average starting experience. Last year, he allowed 26 pressures and 5 snaps. Awful run blocker. Transfer Grant Segrin from Nebraska comes in, but he's just a former walk-on. 36 snaps through 2 seasons to his name. They also have Noah McKinney, who has 39 snaps at left tackle. He originally came to Oklahoma State from UNLV. But as you can see, this is an entirely unproven unit with the only experience coming at a well below average level in the Sun Belt. Tackle is a problem on paper. They're going to need to develop someone if this gets to be an average position. Guard, they had a few more transfers. Louis Canepa from New Mexico State, Bob Schick from Virginia Tech, and Lavaka Tawakiaho from Weber State. Canepa, the New Mexico State transfer, he played guard and tackle for New Mexico State. He was a pretty good player. Only 12 pressures allowed, good run blocking metrics. He got hurt in the spring game, and there hasn't really been much of an update, so we'll see there. Schick is a 2-year starter for Virginia Tech. He was a very good pass blocker, but run blocking left a lot to be desired. He only allowed 5 pressures and no sacks on 502 snaps last year. So as long as you're running the air raid and not asking him to block a lot, he should be just fine. Tawakiaho, the Weber State transfer, was actually a below average starter in the FCS. He was much better as a pass blocker, though. 7 pressures allowed. The reason he didn't grade out as better than he is, I guess, is he had 10 penalties. So that's kind of your guard position. I think it's a little stronger than tackle, but it definitely has its ups and downs and has some weaknesses. At center, they add Kason Carpenter from Tulsa. He was awful last year, 17 pressures, 1 sack. The problem was his run blocking was even worse. So that pass blocking stuff is actually not too bad, but this run blocking really dragged him down to the point of no return. So fortunately, when you're running an air raid, hopefully that doesn't matter. The other candidates to maybe play anywhere along the interior are Jacoby Sanders. He played 38 snaps his first 2 years. Austin Kowecki played 120 snaps between both guard spots last year. He was a good pass blocker. They should give him every chance to start, actually. He's better than some of these transfers. And then Davis Dotson played 18 snaps. Even younger players like Gage Staniland and Jarrett Henry have been in the 2 deep through the spring. I mean, there's probably like 12 guys here that could start. I don't think this unit is going to be catastrophic, but there is a chance that it could be. There's just so many unknown players, low-level recruits, FCS and G5 transfers without experience or have played below average at their previous stops that need to be developed. When you need to develop 1 or 2 guys, I can usually see it. When you need to develop 5, and in the case of a 2-deep 10, this is a tall task, a very, very tall task. Defense. This unit was really bad last year, so a lot of these are addition by subtraction. They lose their top 2 edges, Obi Ezigbo and Cody Watershed. That's not saying much. Neither of those guys was very good. They do return 378 snaps from Deshaun Brown. He was second on the team with 28 pressures. Only 1 of those was converted to a sack, but overall, he's been a functional pass rusher and a good edge defender, so I think that's a good place to start. Jaleel Johnson played 316 snaps. He had 23 QB pressures and 3 sacks. He wasn't great in the run game, which is weird because he's 260 pounds, but overall, that was a functional pass rushing pairing between Johnson and Brown when they were on the field. The only other player who's gotten even a few snaps is Landon Dean, and that's just 39. So they go to the portal to add more edge rushing depth. Kyron Duhan from UTEP, Malik Charles from West Georgia, Wendell Gregory from South Carolina, Tajay McCoy from Colorado. Duhan, the UTEP transfer, 395 snaps as a freshman last year. He had 15 pressures, good in the run game, 43 tackles and 7 tackles for a loss. He's probably going to factor into this rotation. Wendell Gregory only played 7 snaps with South Carolina, but he was a freshman and he's a 4-star. So you just don't have a lot of guys walking through the building of that recruiting caliber. McCoy from Colorado played 186 snaps as a redshirt freshman. 17 pressures on 186 snaps is pretty decent. And then he's a little smaller, so I'm not sure about the run game as far as the projection goes. Malik Charles is an FCS player. He had 23 pressures down there. He's probably just going to be a depth piece. They also have a couple JUCO guys in Chadavian Bradley and Rashad Bradley who come in. Either of them could potentially play for this team. We'll see what they offer. Defensive tackle, they lost their top 2 players, Colin Clay and Justin Kirkland. Their, I guess, main incumbent is Iman Oates. He was atrocious last year on 580 snaps. He's 6'3", 305. 7 missed tackles. That was 23% of his opportunities. He originally came from JUCO and just never quite made the jump. Transfers, Michael Diatta from Virginia, Demarion Thomas from Vanderbilt, and Sitiveni Havili Kafusi are going to have to play a lot. Kafusi's from UCLA. Starting with Diatta, the Virginia transfer, he played 300 snaps each of the last 2 years. Good run defender, 292 pounds. I think he's going to definitely play in rotation. Thomas is 334 pounds from Vanderbilt. Played 394 snaps at a below average level last year, so we'll see on him. Kafusi played 538 snaps for UCLA the last 3 years with largely below average production. From there, the most Likely is that you see Aiden Kelly maybe a little bit, 176 snaps for him. They do have a rare 4-star recruit coming in, or he was a rare 4-star. So, I mean, just his inability to get to the field is kind of a tragedy. Like, you don't recruit a lot of 4-stars here, and when Aiden Kelly can't get on the field, it's just kind of a brutal situation. But overall, this defense, especially the defensive line, just lacks players with talent. So we'll see what they can do as we move into this year of change. Linebacker, brand new room. They had a lot of injuries last year. They bring in Brian McCoy from Akron, Trip White from Ole Miss, Brandon Rawls from Saginaw Valley, and Darius Thomas from Western Kentucky. McCoy is the most likely starter. He was a 2-year starter with Akron. Led their team with 120 tackles, a liability in coverage, 88% completion percentage for 234 yards, 2 touchdowns, 2 PPUs. Trip White probably runs opposite him. Ole Miss transfer, but he's a 3-star, 72 snaps through 3 years with Ole Miss. Rawls comes in from Saginaw Valley. That's a D2 school. He's 6'2", 240. We'll see with him. And then Darius Thomas from Western Kentucky. He's very undersized, 212 pounds. He did have 10 pressures, so good as a blitzer, but could not stand up and run defense in Conference USA. I'd be shocked if that's the case here. He was a good coverage linebacker, 86% completion for 194 scoreless yards. We'll see. I mean, maybe you just look to young players like Poasa, Utu, Ike, Esanwoon are both back. 17 and 27 snaps to their names. I mean, it's probably just a better idea to bet on your young players rather than continually hammer low-level transfers. But, I mean, I don't know. Expectations are not high for linebacker. Defensive back, Oklahoma State lost much of their starting defensive back room, including their best players, Kendall Daniels and Corey Black. There's a couple guys that have started before. Dylan Smith at nickel. He's played some slot. He's played some safety. He has been below average. Last year, he missed 22 tackles. He missed 22 tackles the last 2 years. That was on 872 snaps. He's only 185 pounds, so that kind of makes some sense. His coverage was pretty good, though. 61% completion percentage for 186 scoreless yards, 1 PBU. On the boundary, you're probably seeing transfers. Former 4-star Jalen Davies comes in from UCLA. Good starter for UCLA the last 3 years. Worst season came last year. That was after their DC, Deonton Lynn, left. Good run defender, average in coverage. Last year, he allowed 414 yards, 2 scores, and 3 picks. I think his running mate on the boundary is probably former Ohio State 4-star J.K. Johnson. Played the last 2 years with LSU, but he got hurt in 23, missed the entire season. Last year, played a limited role. His most experience came in 2022 season with Ohio State. He played 407 snaps, where he allowed a 60% completion percentage for 269 yards and 3 scores. He's never quite lived up to his recruitment, and he's been injured a lot recently. Their depth pieces include Cale Smith, Cam Smith, Cameron Epps, and transfer Eric Fletcher. Fletcher only played 30 snaps in his freshman season with East Carolina, so I don't think we see him. Cale Smith played 394 snaps last year, largely in rotation, and he was horrendous. He allowed 484 yards, 3 touchdowns, 1 interception, and 4 PBUs. Cam Smith has started much of the last 3 years on the boundary. He's a decent run defender, but he allowed a 70% completion percentage for 518 yards, 6 touchdowns, 1 interception, and 7 PBUs. So that was not great. I guess one wild card here is Cameron Epps. He tore his ACL last October, only played 165 snaps before the injury, but he started in 2023, where he allowed a 62% completion percentage for 390 yards, 3 touchdowns, 3 picks, and 4 PBUs. The corner position, I think, is better than most of the positions on the defense, but there's still a lot of holes here that you're going to have to plug. But a couple 4-stars and J.K. Johnson and Jalen Davies definitely help. At safety, they add Zaquan Patterson from Miami, Mordecai McDaniel from Charlotte, and DeAndre Boykins from North Carolina. Patterson's a former 4-star. He played 159 snaps as a freshman last year with Miami. He's looked good in limited opportunities, so he should hold one of your safety spots. Mordecai McDaniel originally began with Florida, and last year he played 375 snaps with Charlotte, so good to see him produce. He limited pass catchers to a 67% completion percentage for 93 scoreless yards and 3 PBUs. He could easily start here. Boykins is a former 4-star who began with North Carolina. He missed all of 2023 with a knee injury before he played just 103 snaps last year. When you look back to his season starting, he ranked 4th on the team in tackles with 67. That was in 2022. Coverage was Up and down, 74% completion for 330 yards, 2 scores, 1 interception, and 5 PBUs. I think at least 2 of these 3 guys start, but I guess you have incumbents like Parker Robertson played 340 snaps last year. He never should have been on the field. He's a walk-on. JUCO transfers Jeremy Cook and Carrington Pierce also joined the team. We'll see what the JUCO guys can give you. But I think the secondary is the strength of this defense, but I'm not sure you want to call it a strength. It's just the best unit among a lot of average units so far. Kicker, they returned Logan Ward. He was nearly perfect on extra points. He missed 1 of 35. Field goals were all over the place. He was 12 of 17. He went 5 of 8 on 40-plus and 1 of 1 on 50-plus, so he sprayed a little bit inside. He was the 80th most efficient kicker in college football last year, but this is far from the worst of the concerns for Oklahoma State. Overall, this is a roster that has a lot of change, and generally speaking, I think coaching and development can paper over a position or two or a player or two, but we're talking almost every single position group that's brand new staff, low-level recruits, transfers coming up from the FCS, transfers coming up from the G5, or failures coming down from premier programs, sometimes changing positions. I think this might be the worst team in the Big 12, but here is the schedule they have to play. That's going to determine a lot, and luckily for Oklahoma State, it's forgiving. So before I completely throw shade on this team, 1, we've seen Gundy do this stuff before. 2, the schedule's workable. You should be 2-1 in non-con. You have a road trip to Oregon. You're going to lose that game. UT Martin and Tulsa, 2 teams you can easily beat. In conference play, when you look at the top of the Big 12 and just the odds board, who are the difficult teams they face? Baylor, Texas Tech, Kansas State. The Dodge TCU, the Dodge Arizona State, those teams not being on the schedule is going to help them. You also don't see Colorado, who's towards the top of the conference. There's a lot of teams rebuilding or just in a bad place overall that this team is going to face. Arizona, they were a disaster last year. They don't project to be much better. Houston should be a little better. They're still in year 2 of a coaching staff. Cincinnati has not gotten their act together since they changed coaches, Luke Fickell leaving. Kansas lost their entire offense, basically except their quarterback, and UCF is a brand new coaching staff under Scott Frost. Oklahoma State should be able to compete with all of those teams in various degrees of rebuild, but are they better than those teams? On paper, the answer is no. Worst case scenario for Oklahoma State is 2 wins. I think it is most likely this team finishes between 4 and 6. If they're able to develop some of these low-level transfers, you could see them ascend past teams like Arizona, Houston, Cincinnati, Kansas, UCF. That makes them extremely volatile, but I won't lie, this might be my least favorite team I've done so far, and I hate saying that because I know a lot of people that watch these videos are fans of the team. You probably haven't even made it this far. But, I mean, it's just hard to be optimistic with what Oklahoma State has right now. But that'll do it for us today. Thank you guys for watching. Let me know what you want to see next. Otherwise, good luck. We'll see you later.